Hi, I'm Jim and this is Jim's Fix-It Shop, and today, as promised, we're going to put this headlight on my snapper. It's the same one I put on my father-in-law's, and these things are really quite bright and they work quite well. Nice cast aluminum housing, short pigtail. They give you this little female plug so you can wire it in and unplug it if it burns out, but the life they have on these things, I don't think you're going to have to worry about it burning out. So we're not going to use this plug. We're actually going to cut this one off and just wire it in direct. So let me spin the camera around. The machine's behind us. My turtle is there. I guess I'm going to call that the turtle. These are snappers, and this one, yep, we've started tearing the turtle apart. That's another story. Okay, I got a number 12 solid wire. It's not stranded. And I was able to shove it through this protective hose that the rest of these wires are in, that goes through the tube. It wasn't easy. It took 5 tries to get it through there, but pushed hard enough, it did go through, and that will help protect the wire. Right now I'm going to leave that down and out of the way while I drill these 2 holes. This first hole, now my other machine that has the bicycle handlebars, I used one of these. It's a conduit clamp or hanger, and I clamped it around the steering shaft so when you turned a corner, the headlight would turn and aim in the direction you were going. I tried it on this, but because of this foam tube that turns, the headlight was never aimed where I wanted it. So I scratched that idea. We're going to bolt it solid and turn at your own risk, I guess. Let's poke some holes through this thing. We're going to start with a smaller drill and work our way up. Now, I don't want to bore you to death by drilling a hole, so we'll pause this once in a while. Okay, we got an 1/8 inch hole through there. And we're going to jump up to maybe a 3/16. And we'll drill that through. Alright, now we're going to use a number 3 drill on the top only. I'm drilling these both at once so I don't have to keep switching bits quite so often. Now that number 3 drill is for a 1/4 28 tap. And that way I can thread the screw in there and it'll stay in place and won't wiggle around on me when I'm in the backside trying to get the nut on to hold the ground wire. Okay, now I'm just going to put the tap in the drill and thread the hole. Works pretty good. Now we get the light, take the bracket off, and get that bracket on there. Hopefully my screw won't be too long and interfere with the steering shaft on the inside, as I don't have a very short one to use. That should be okay. I just love it when I have everything I need. Gotta go grab a wrench. Now we got the wrench, we'll tighten this bolt up. That does not want to. It's got a bunch of bumps on it, and it's catching the head of the bolt. So I guess we're going to have to play with it to get it aimed in the right direction. Well, that's kind of weird. There. Now we got to drill that other hole out for this grommet. Got a small rubber grommet that the wire on the light will go through and hopefully keep from cutting the wire. Now, checking this rubber grommet, you can use a pair of calipers. Just softly go in there until you touch the grommet, and I've got about 360. So I'm going to use a 375 drill or work my way up to that so I can get that grommet in there. And I'll be back in a minute. Okay, we worked our way up one drill size at a time until we got this 375 or 3/8 hole in there. Now we're going to try and get the grommet in the hole. Now there is different sizes of grommets. Let me grab the other one I bought. Okay, this is the first grommet I bought. It's got a 1/4 inch hole, so I figured, well, that's got to be the right one. Well, no. There's another size you have to check on these. See the width of the slot in the grommet compared to this one? You have to buy the grommet with the right size width to fit on the steel that you're using. Otherwise, it's not going to go in right. The hard part's getting it in there. Sometimes it helps if you got a little screwdriver to shove it in with. Or we can use a scale. Just want to be careful you don't rip it. Now when you're drilling the holes to get the grommet into, if you don't have the right size hole for the grommet, you'll know it once you get it in. The hole in the grommet won't be the size that you want it to be. Kind of wiggle this around, get it in there where I want it. There. Now to help the wire go through the rubber grommet, use some WD-40. It'll help it slide right in. I think I'm going to grab my can. Okay, now we're going to cut this fancy plug off the end of this thing because I don't need it. Not sure. I guess I'm going to have to cut that back a little bit farther. The way they got that molded on there. I hate to cut it any shorter than I have to, because I'm going to need the wires. And we'll strip this back about an inch or so. Just want to be careful cutting through that insulation that you don't hit the wires. A lot of times if you just score it with your wire cutters and then bend the wire, it will break and you won't cut the wires inside of the insulation. Now I also want to skin these before I get them up inside of there and not being able to work on them. You don't have to take a lot off because I'm going to be using connectors. I'm not going to try to use a wire nut up inside here. Now a little WD-40. Probably ought to have a rag. That will help that slide right through. Apparently that's the screw they gave me to bolt it onto the car with. These are for putting on a car, actually, and not for what we're using it for, but hey, I won't tell anybody if you don't. And that's all there is to mounting that. Getting to the wires back here to crimp on my connectors may be another story in itself. Let me move this camera. Okay, I had to make these wires a little longer. They were just too short to work with. And what I used is these little connectors. They call them a butt joint. You just stick a wire in one end and crimp it, and put another wire in the other end and crimp that. That's all there is to them. Then I crimped on a fitting on the end of that wire with a 1/4 inch hole in it. This is a 1/4 inch eyelet. Now, see what side of the steering wheel I'm on. I got to get this up in here and get it on the end of that 1/4 inch bolt. This would be a lot easier to do if I took this steering column out, which I got to do to replace these bushings. But we'll give this a shot and see if I can get it on. Might have to pause this. Okay, we got the wire, or the eyelet, on the back of the screw. Now we just got to get the nut on it and tighten that up. I'm only going to be able to tighten this up with my fingers until I pull this steering shaft out to replace these bushings. But at least it will be on there. If you wanted to push 2 wires through this wire harness, you could just run the ground back to the battery, but once you tighten this nut up, it should be fine. I might be able to get a wrench in here and do it with the shaft in my way. That should take care of it. Now, for the wiring, we will put this plug back that I pulled out of here. It went under the cable and up to the ignition switch I had to take out. I didn't want to take a chance on catching one of these wires when I was drilling this hole, so we took the switch out. It wasn't that much work to do. Because that switch has a flat on the side of it that lines it up, it makes it hard getting that nut to start straight. And you don't want to cross thread it. So just take your time, it'll go on there. Now we just have to hook this wire we brought up to this wire we extended the light wire with, and we'll put them about like that, and we can always shove them back in there. The switch on my father-in-law's I mounted up here. I found a better spot, and I'll show you where that is in a second. You just have to strip off just about a 1/4 inch of the insulation off the wire. That's all you need for them little connectors. And you can look down in there and see the metal that you're actually crimping, and that's how I judge where to put the pliers on the connector. Just kind of look down in there and get it towards the end of that piece of metal that's in there. It's a little piece of, I imagine it's some kind of steel, I hope. It's not aluminum. Now once that's on, we're just going to shove it back in there, out of the way and out of sight. It's a nice, clean looking job. Let me make you motion sick. We've got the grommet with the wire going through and the light mounted. Looks like it almost came on there when we bought it. Now, I'll show you where I found to put the switch on this one. Okay, the place I found to put the switch was right here by your accelerator for your engine. Right above that, there's already a hole in this bracket. I'm not really sure why they have it there, but I'm going to make use of it. Now you've got two different switches. You got the kind here with leads already on it, and all you need is them little connectors that I already used, or you got a switch with screws. I think I'm going to use this screw one. And we're going to take this off. This is a little round nut they give you to put on the outside to make it look a little dressier. I always take them off, and I put the hex nut on the outside, and I put the round nut on the inside. I guess just because you can't tighten that round nut up very good like you can the hex nut. I'll just gonna adjust this here. I'm not gonna put this little plate on that says off and on either. Down will be off, up will be on, just like the lights in your house. So I've got one wire that's going to go to the battery. It's got a 1/4 inch eyelet in it, and that will come up to the switch. We'll cut it off about that long. That should be good. And we're going to put a small eyelet on the end of that to go under these screws. I have them laying here somewheres. Under my big feet. we'll crimp one of them on. And we'll crimp the other one on this other wire that comes from the headlight. Now when you're putting these wires on the switch, now I got to get a screwdriver. Never seem to have everything I need right where I need it, but I think the main reason that works out quite well is then I can have a quick Pepsi break. Now I've been getting a lot of comments about that, seeing we're on that subject. And no, I'm not sponsored by or get any money from Pepsi. I just drink a lot of Pepsi. Now when you put the wires on this switch, you don't have to have any particular wire on either screw. It doesn't matter. And of course I dropped a little screw and it rolled underneath them. And as you can tell, I don't edit my videos. I'm a human, just like you are. I drop things, I just pick them up. I may drop them 3 or 4 times, who knows, before I get this tiny little screw started in this switch. If you use fork terminals, you don't have to take the screws all the way out. But personally, I like the eyelets better. I just feel they're more secure than a fork terminal is. They're probably not, but hey. So we want to stick this switch up in here and put the little nut on. I think we need more thread sticking out. If you want this on here for looks, a lot of times you'll adjust it so when you get the nut on, it's flush with the top of the shank on the switch. But I want some of the threads to stick out past the nut, and I'll show you why in a second. And you can just hold this switch back here so it's the right orientation for your off and on. The reason I have some thread sticking out above the nut is because of this. It has a nut inside of it, and it's a rubber boot that will keep all the dirt and water and whatever else out of your switch. I get them at my local electrical place, and switch works just like it normally would, but it has a rubber boot over it. Now let's hook up a battery and see how this thing works. Now I'm not going to mount the battery in the battery box because as soon as I get done, I got to stand this thing up so I can work on it. I just got a couple small jumper wires with small alligator clamps on both ends, and we'll just clamp this one onto the ground. Well, and this one on hot. And let's see if it works. Well, that ought to light up the yard when I'm sucking leaves. Nice clean job. The switch is in an easy place to get a hold of. The wiring looks nice. I guess another successful job. Well, that's it. We got a light on. It's a nice professional wiring job this time. Sorry to say, the one I put on my father-in-law's. The wires aren't run quite as nice as I did on this one. It's just the way it worked out. It's not like I did that on purpose or anything. But when I do leaves here, it's usually way after dark before I end up quitting because I just want to get them all picked up. So I found on my 28-inch snapper I had 20 years ago, a headlight really worked out well. You can get these things. Here's the box that came in. It came from Tractor Supply, or the old Farm & Fleet. It doesn't really have, I guess it does have a name on it, Travelers. It's got a part number somewhere maybe, so you guys can find them if you're looking for one. It's about the only small one. There's some numbers on the top. It's the only small one they have, and I believe they're made to put on a light bar. Yeah, it shows them here on the front of a Jeep. To mount on a light bar on the front of your vehicle or the back, whatever you want it. It worked out extremely well for this situation. And I hope I talked you into putting one on yours. Some kind of light. So until next time, work safe, have fun. Don't forget to subscribe. It really does help. Not me as much as other people trying to find these videos. So I guess that's it. Maybe if I find some part number on this goofy box, I'll put it in the description box below where you can get it and the number of it. I still don't see a part number, but I'll keep looking. Who knows? So we'll talk to you soon.